Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and joining me this week, we have a very special guest, my brother-in-law, John. John, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much for being on the show this week. Joe is off fighting his own battles, I'm sure, but I was like, man, we can have you on the show, and I appreciate it, so thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
no problem. No problem.
All right. Well, John, for you and for everyone else who might not be as familiar with this show, we talk about all the things we love. We talk about the movies, the games, the TV shows, the cookbooks that we love so very, very much. But before we get into the meat of the podcast, we're going to talk about a little bit of news this week. We got two new trailers for one movie and one show. The first one I really want to start talking about, though, is for Tomb Raider, because that mixes both the games and the movies. And honestly, John, I don't know if you're with me on this one, but there hasn't been a lot of good video game movies forever, I think. Has there ever been one that you've actually enjoyed?
Like video adaptations to movies?
Yeah, or like a video game turned into a movie, like Warcraft or something like that.
The Warcraft movie was okay, but that only fit like a certain crowd. Other than that, no. Usually, I mean, it's the same thing when you go from like a book to a movie or a show. A lot of times they don't turn out well, so usually they don't hold too much of my interest.
Yeah, no, I get you there. And like Warcraft might be one of the few exceptions that had like an incredibly huge budget. Maybe like Prince of Persia was the same way.
Right, Prince of Persia was pretty decent, but I remember like Warcraft, like it wasn't the greatest movie, but for those that enjoy the game and the lore, then that one was fine. But there was a lot of downsides to that movie. But most of the time, they struggle to get what video games or books are trying to do and trying to go as far as lore wise.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and that's the thing about like a universe like Warcraft in particular that's like so dense, and they kind of pick like one moment in there, and then they're like focusing on two different factions because they don't want to upset, one or the other. So they had a big uphill battle for them. So we'll see if they get a sequel. I know it did very well internationally, so we'll see. But anyway, the one I want to talk about this week is Tomb Raider, because we just got a trailer for Tomb Raider. And John, I'm not sure, did you play the reboot of Tomb Raider at all?
The reboot of the game, no. I played the original first one or two many years ago, but yeah, not the reboot.
Yeah, not the gritty reboot, because like in the older games, it was more just like her with like dual pistols, like running through a place, just like shooting at wolves and like dinosaurs and like doing backflips and stuff. This one's like gritty, like kind of Uncharted, but even more so. But from the trailer, at least from my perspective, it seems like they're taking a lot of cues from that reboot, kind of making it more gritty, more realistic, and it seems like looks a lot like the first game, especially kind of using like a pickaxe and stuff to like attack guys and all that stuff. But I wanted to know, like from your perspective, someone who you said you haven't played those games, is there any excitement about like an action adventure starring Lara Croft again, not Angelina Jolie?
Actor wise, it doesn't matter for me too much, but looking at it, I'm rewatching it again. I mean, it definitely looks definitely grittier. Watching right now the start of it, what concerns me, and this goes for a lot of movies, is like background and build up to a character. So what would concern me about watching this one is where's the transition between the character when she discovers all this tomb raiding business, and then all of a sudden she's killing guys and finding all these treasures and reading all these maps perfectly. It's like, is there a timeline here? It seems like it happens very fast. The biggest thing for me in movies is that I want backstory, I want character development, story development, and for me, it looks like it's happening very quickly. So, I mean, it looks, if you enjoy like that Indiana Jones-esque type movies, it looks like it will probably be pretty good. It looks really well done, camera-wise and effect-wise. So it looks pretty neat. I mean, I don't know that I'll go see it. I might watch it when it comes out on DVD or something, but...
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. And obviously, again, like we're talking about Warcraft and Prince of Persia, there's definitely a budget going into this. They really want to pump this up because like with some of those other ones, especially Lara Croft, you could put her in like 20 movies, like just keep putting her in movies and just kind of keep moving her like a James Bond style character. But yeah, that's a good point. It kind of reminds me of Batman Begins, where you take this character who's like young and maybe innocent to this different world, and then how do you transition them into the legend that they become, and that's the stuff that you're kind of seeking right now. It sounds like you want to
Right.
get that backstory, like how did she become the badass? Because I know in the game what happened is she does get shipwrecked, and she just has to learn to do that. She is like a pretty good climber and all that, but she has to learn to be like a hunter. And so the first person she kills, she has a problem with it, but then like a few minutes later, she's just like you're headshotting people as her, and she's
Right.
like, that's fine, you know.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so you went from barely been able to take this person out to now you're a master at it. So I don't know. It looks all right. I think that with that story, there's so much you can work from, and with as far as sequels and things like that. So it seems like I mean, it's going to be probably something that's going to have at least a second movie to it.
Yeah.
That type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost franchise or storyline just works really well for sequels. It looks good. Like I said, I'll probably watch it when it comes out in DVD. I don't me myself, I don't go out to too many movies these days.
Yeah.
Just because they're worth way more. There's way too much money to go out and see a movie, but
Yeah, definitely.
you know it
Right.
it looks good.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing I will say about like this trailer specifically, I got some interesting. It almost reminded me of the Black Panther trailer, but they kind of have this cool beat going underneath it, and kind of like once you tap the map, it would be like with the beat. And I liked the kinetic feel of the trailer, like like load a gun and it would kind of go to the song or whatever, and it's kind of in the background. I was like, oh, it's kind of a nice touch. It kind of keeps me interested because this story is kind of similar to ones we've seen before. It's like, oh, like dead parent or somebody leaves like a video message for their child to take on their role
Right.
or whatever, and you're like, I've seen this before, and it's like, okay, this is a little bit different, and she looks the part, and
Well,
I'm interested to see.
you see that like that dead parent video bit. Like this is the same story for so many of these like treasure seeking franchises. Look at what's the really popular video game series? You know it.
Which one?
Uncharted.
Oh yeah, Uncharted. Yeah, oh, for
Uncharted.
sure.
Um, I mean, really, all of these are almost the same story. They're just different in one aspect or another. I think it's because of the original Tomb Raider movies and the games. It's going to have that crowd that's going to be really excited for it. So it looks
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, and the weird thing is like with Uncharted and now this game, it's almost like to me, I kind of almost don't want them to ever make like an Uncharted movie because when I play Uncharted, it feels like I am playing a movie. It's like that kind of that pinnacle of what I sometimes like in a video game. That's like a pretty good narrative, but I'm kind of like doing the action set pieces and I'm still getting really fun and engaging cutscenes. So it's like for Tomb Raider as well, it's like I don't really know if we need a movie. It's just that they're like, yeah, we're gonna do a movie right now. So it's like, all right, that's
But
fine.
I think that the Tomb Raider, those that enjoy the game, enjoy the lore. It's I mean, I'm old. That series is old. So now I mean, you see with all kinds of movies, they're rebooting things. So
Yeah,
I think it's more so people are going to go, oh, it's a movie and not realize it's a game and it kind of can stand alone. I think this one, as opposed to, say, the Angelina Jolie ones, might be able to stand alone in that Tomb Raider franchise better than the rest of the movies, if that makes
yeah.
any sense.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I get where you're coming from. Definitely. Well, it's all business too. I really just wish they'd go the next step. It would cost a lot more money to do like a Horizon Zero Dawn movie because if you had to make like full mechanical beasts, like it's CGI and like have her running around, that'd be really cool. But
Right,
yeah, that'd be very expensive. And I love that game, so like just keep it a game. That's fine. Just make a sequel,
right.
please. They definitely will. But the other trailer that I want to talk about for a TV show, and John, I'm not sure how caught up you are with anything if you're actually into any of the Marvel Netflix stuff, but it's the new
Oh, sure.
Punisher trailer. How much of the old like the Defenders and all the other kind of standalones have you watched?
Well, I really enjoyed both the first two seasons of Daredevil. I thought
Great
those
man.
were very, very well done. Like that's I think the gold standard to Marvel's Netflix series is specifically the first season of that show. I watched the Jessica Jones and then a little bit of the Luke Cage, I believe. I haven't watched Iron Fist. I hadn't heard good things about it, so
Yeah,
I've just been kind of putting it off. And then same with they just recently did the Defenders, which is all of them teaming up, right?
that's
And,
correct.
was that a movie or a TV series as well?
It was a TV series, but unlike the other ones that were standalone, that were 13 episodes, this one was only 8.
Okay.
So, which I appreciated.
I mean, it's on the list of things to watch. Especially, it's higher on the list because it's Marvel. I enjoy what they do, what they've done through Netflix, and making it putting it out there more to more people to see, I think is good, and it's really helping Marvel. And I've liked them, so I have the intention of watching the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, quick side question: do you have a favorite Marvel film right now? Is there any that come to mind to you right away?
Oh,
Where you're like, I love that film. If
jeez.
just a gut reaction, you don't have to like think about it too much. Just you sound like you like Marvel a lot. And I obviously love Marvel a lot too.
I
So
mean, you and I, we talk pretty often. Um, I do enjoy the superhero world, mostly Marvel as opposed to DC. I'm not as caught up as, I mean, you're a master when it comes to this stuff. I'm not anywhere close to that level or caught up on the movies or shows or even the comics for that matter. Um, so as far as favorite movie, geez, I don't know. Maybe the first Avengers. I haven't seen too many of the recent ones.
oh, that's fine, man. Yeah, dude, who cares if you haven't seen them? It's just like whatever one comes to mind to you. Like one of my favorites was like the first Captain America, the first Avenger. I love that one, and it's just
Mhm.
like it might not be the biggest or flashiest, but I just absolutely love that film. So, uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. But I'm glad that you like this this world that they've built in Netflix. But is now the Punisher seeing this, is that kind of more the way you want to go? Because I feel like with Daredevil, those are always like the gritty, like the grittiest almost. Maybe Jessica Jones was, but like Daredevil's such a gritty show and like it's pretty violent, but this is like the next step.
Well, and this is the first. This is like the standalone series for the Punisher. I thought with the season 2 of Daredevil, when they introduced Punisher, it was incredibly well done. There was, I know when they previewed his character, excuse me for forgetting the actor's name, um, that a lot of people were very concerned about how he would play that character, because there was a lot of love around the Punisher um, world, and that character, what he did, and just kind of his demeanor and things like that. So they were unsure how he would play that. And I thought in when they introduced him that it was just incredibly well done, and I was really looking forward to the standalone.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
this I'm excited to watch this. Watching the trailer, it seems really run and gun
yeah,
to me. So
yep.
the trailer honestly worries me, being excited about it previously, though I think it could be done right. I mean, it's not going to keep me from watching it. I'm excited to watch it. It's just like I said, it seems really run and gun.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It feels very, especially at one moment in the trailer, very John Wick. Like he's kind of going around,
Oh
he's like
yeah,
shooting guys.
absolutely.
It's like okay, and I get that's what's kind of hot right now. It's just like, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because John Wick, I think, does action so well. And if other people are noticing that and seeing that and trying to implement that, especially in a TV show, please do more of that. Please, thank you. Like that'd be
Right.
great. So
Well, what Marvel's done well, and I hope that and I really want to see it in the Punisher standalone, is backstory and that character development I was
yes.
kind of talking about earlier. Um, so if they can nail that in this, I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, definitely. And I know they teased that a little bit in Daredevil season 2, but now like in the beginning of this trailer, I mean, we kind of start off with Metallica's one and just kind of like the acoustic version, then it turns into the
Hmm.
metal once he starts killing people. But that beginning part is kind of with his, his kids and his wife, and then, he's kind of just that
Your
post
normal
traumatic
guy.
stress. Yeah, exactly. And then he finally just like snaps because it's just like they kill them and it's just like so yeah, I think we're definitely gonna get that in the first episode a lot, but then I think they'll do callbacks to it throughout the rest of the season just
Hmm.
to kind of say like, hey, he's like sitting drinking alone. What's he thinking about? Oh yeah, he's thinking about his dead wife and kids.
Well, and
Yeah.
see, and that's the interesting thing is that it seems like in the trailer we see a lot of different things happening. We see him from, like you said, with his family, really just kind of a normal person, and then midway through and by the end of it, he's shooting all kinds of people and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I, it's probably probably gonna be like 8 to 13 episodes. That's usually the run.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be 13, which I feel like, unfortunately, maybe you felt this with some of them too. Daredevil's usually good with 13, but like some of these other ones, it feels like they just pad out like 3 or 4 episodes just so they can have 13. It's like, I'd rather have them do just like 8 really
Right.
good killer episodes
I
as
think a
opposed
lot
to
of that has to do with how good the character they're building that show around is.
true.
Um, but with like the Punisher, I want to see that slow build into what he becomes. I thought when they did that with Daredevil and the early parts of that and that character creation, they did a very good job. They could have taken all the time in the world, and they did a wonderful job. So I hope, even though the trailer looks really fast paced, I hope that in the actual episode run, it slows down a little bit, so you get to see that development.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that Daredevil, both those seasons do really well, especially the first one, is they have such a strong villain. And they had, like, Jessica Jones is a pretty good one too. But I thought the Kingpin was such a good villain. And I'm hopeful that, Punisher will have something kind of like that. I don't think it's going to be that, because just like some evil CIA, like, leader guy or whatever. But like Kingpin's backstory and like the way he was doing things and the way he wanted to run Hell's Kitchen was so fascinating, because they cut between the two of them, who were kind of like they wanted the best for the city, kind of,
He
sort
was
of.
such a good villain and played by such a good actor.
Yeah,
It was so well done.
like, put that guy in the MCU. Like, I don't care that he's not like super powered. I'm like, just get him in there, because like Vincent D'Onofrio just killed it with that character. I'm like, oh god, that guy.
Absolutely.
Every time he's on the scene, it's just like he just demands your attention. So yeah, we'll see how good that is. But it's gonna be. You're right. I think it's gonna be a lot of running and gunning, and I think that's what a lot of people expect. So there's probably gonna be a very high body count, and I think this show will be a bit more violent than almost anything we've seen before for
but
these
that's
Netflix
that's
series.
his character.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Punisher. So I think I'd be disappointed if we didn't see a little bit of that. It's just I want it to be a well thought out and well developed character and story. That's what I like. I'm the kind of guy that if I go to a movie, I'm totally willing to watch a 3-4 hour movie, only because I want to see that slow build in the story and character and see it really well done. Because I don't like plot holes. I want to know. I want to know what happened in this person's past to make them decide what they're doing today. Whereas like these days, you get like hour and a half, maybe 2 hour movies, and it just feels so rushed, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I know most of the public, they're just wanting to go see it and have a good time, and I want to enjoy myself too. But I like a good story.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially when you're introducing a lot of characters like that. That's why like some of these superhero films like Civil War and stuff have to be like at least 2.5 hours. Even if we know all the characters coming in, it's like, yeah, we're introducing a few more, but we need time to establish everybody and what they're doing and why they're there. And that's why I think it can be dangerous with like these Netflix ones. Like if they don't establish that really well, it's like, okay, I know Luke Cage is this guy and he's doing this, but why do I have to watch this for 13 episodes? Whereas with the Punisher, it's like, oh, we can start here with like regular old, Frank Castle, and then it's like, and then at the end be like, wow, he's moved quite a ways after this horrible, thing.
And
So
it'll be interesting to see where in kind of that timeline. I forget the Marvel timeline, because if I recall correctly, sometime after the first Daredevil season, we're working on Jessica Jones. They were saying a majority of what was happening was all happening at the same time. You've seen where the Punisher was introduced in the second season of Daredevil, and now we have the standalone series. What I'm sure we'll find out is, I'm assuming the standalone is going to come before his introduction, and how he interacts with the rest of the characters in that Marvel Netflix series, because we've seen so many of the characters commingle, not outside of the Defenders series, but you've seen the nurse in so many of the series.
Yeah, she's the through line throughout every one of them, pretty much.
And once in a while you see the other characters pop up and help each other. So that's kind of what I'd like to see, is what the timelines is going to look like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think from the trailer here, we see Karen Page. I think her name is like Daredevil's kind of, she used to be the secretary. Now she's kind of doing something else. She's a reporter, but I think he's like with her in that instance, like the Punisher is in like one moment. So I think this is probably going to take place pretty quickly after maybe that second season to Daredevil, like when he gets out of prison. So I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. But the question is, like, if he's like going around killing a ton of people, like where, like, if this is happening at the same time as like the Defenders is taking place, or like is Daredevil going to show up and be like, hey man, like probably shouldn't be killing everybody, you could just punch him up a bit. He'll be like, no man, we talked about this, like I strung you to a roof and I said, well, this is how it's going down. Yeah, that's a good point, man, because you don't know where that's taking place. But also in the greater span of the MCU, you're kind of like, all right, it happened after like the incident when the Chitauri stopped or like came down, but then they also make some references once in a while to Sokovia and Ultron, maybe. So it's like you don't know like where that is. But yeah, man, that's a good point. Hopefully they'll kind of clarify that a little bit more, because I would love to see these characters interact with everybody. I want all the characters to interact.
Right. So that was a good catch on your part by seeing Paige in there, because I hadn't even noticed that, and I just rewatched that part.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I saw her for just like a second, and I'm like, I think she's right there. Like,
yeah, very short part of the video, but yeah, she's in there.
Yeah. So that's probably. I think they had interactions back in Daredevil season 2. I've been meaning to go back and watch season 1 and 2 of that show because I really, really like Daredevil, and
So good.
all the other ones have not been as good to me. And I'm just like, whatever they're doing on Daredevil, I was like, keep like, and also the casting for Matt Murdock, perfect. I was like, how
Right.
did you like? This guy is absolutely perfect. I'm like,
Right.
good job,
And
guys.
and speaking of casting, if I may jump back to the Tomb Raider, at the end of the video, you see her kind of purchasing some guns. The bearded fellow, love that guy. Every movie he's ever been, I can't remember his name. I know he does the Shaun of the Dead and those movies. Love him.
Yeah, he's in the Cornello trilogy or whatever.
Right. That makes me excited. Like him alone makes me excited to see what he does in that movie.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be more than just like a gunsmith or something. Maybe he'll be in it a little bit more. So, but yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh yeah, cool, good for him. I'm like, glad he's in there. They didn't focus on him too much.
I think he's hilarious. So
Yeah, no, dude, yeah, always jump back to stuff, man. If you got a comment, please do. But yeah, so Punisher, you're excited about it. Sounds like a little bit more so than the other ones.
absolutely. Punisher, I'm looking forward to. Tomb Raider, I'll watch it when it comes out on DVD, unless it gets rave reviews and the wife wants to go see it, maybe.
Yeah. We'll see. I might have to go review that one. Yeah, for me too. I'm excited about Punisher. I wasn't excited when I think his name is John Bernthal, the actor, because I absolutely hate Shane from The Walking Dead.
That's exactly my point earlier.
It's so hard to see him and like look at him and be like, I know you're not Shane, but like you talk just like him, and you're always like rubbing your like don't rub your head.
Yeah, don't run your fingers through your hair, please.
Yeah, please. I can't take it. And I really liked Thomas Jane, the guy who played him back in like 2007 in that standalone Punisher movie. Do you remember that?
See,
one?
I didn't see that. That one. I've seen bits and clips, but I haven't fully watched it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like casting wise, I think he's a decent actor. John Bernthal is. I don't think he's bad at all. But like for me, the Punisher has always been like a 7 foot tall, just like brick house of a man. So when they cast him, he was kind of like scrappy and a little bit shorter, and he's kind of yelling a lot. And I was like, I don't know, but like he looks the part in this, so I'm excited to see it.
I mean, if you rewatch Daredevil 2, I thought he did a incredible job in that series when they introduced him. So I think he will continue that in his standalone. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, I also stood up, like I was at a house and I was like watching it, and then they teased Kingpin at the end of like the prison in one of those in season 2 of Daredevil. And I was stood up and I'm like, yes, like I was like, this is the best. I was like, you got that and Punisher in the same place, and he's trying to get Punisher killed. I was like, yes, okay.
Right.
Oh man, I loved it so much. All right, cool. Well, yeah, everybody, let us know in the comments below what you guys think about these new trailers. I'll link them so that you guys can check them out, or just let me know because I'd love to hear what you guys think as well. But now it's time to move into the meat of the show. We're talking fall games preview. There's a lot of games coming out, but John and I are just going to pick a few here and there to just chat about a little bit because there's like 1,000 of them. But John, I want to open up to you first, man. What is one of the games that you're looking forward to coming out this fall, 2017?
This fall, the most immediate game that'll be coming out, and many people have already been playing it, but I'm holding out for Destiny 2 on PC. So that's my big wait for the fall coming up here.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to that. I know you've probably talked about it quite a bit in previous shows.
Just once. We talked about it a little bit last week. We just did like first initial impressions, but I'm happy to talk about it again because now I have a review in progress out about it. I'm working on like the formal review, but I'd love to hear what you thought.
Have you been playing it on console, right?
I have been playing it on console, yep. And I've been maining a warlock. I just beat the campaign. I'm level 20, so I'm ready like strikes and raids and all that stuff. Okay. Well, I need to get weapons to do like the raid because you have to be a bit more powerful for that. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting to that because I felt like in the first game it was hard for me to get to the end game stuff. And then by that time I was kind of like, and the raids, I heard like only 50% of the player base even touched the raids. And that's where like the best stuff in Destiny was. Like that's what the developers are saying. They're like, please play these. So I think they really streamlined the process to get to that. And another thing that I really love is they have a bigger emphasis on story. Because remember in the last game, it was like, hey, if you want to figure this out, go check out a Grimoire card online or whatever it was to like find out why that alien does that thing. And it was like, no, they really focused a lot more on the actual characters and the world and the villains especially, which was really nice. And I appreciated that context. So from what you've seen of it so far though, John, is there a class in particular that you're going to go back to that you played in the first one? Or is there anything that you're really psyched about?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, they had the open beta for PC finally, end of August, I think it was. And first of all, let me tell you, on PC, it's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
I know you got a lot of console fans and whatnot, but PC is the only way to play it, in my opinion. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and the gameplay is very smooth looking. Mm-hmm. But when we played the open beta, and I don't know if it was the same for console, but it was rather short. I would have preferred a little bit more to do in the beta, but while having the time to do it, I was able to play all 3 classes. Now, in the first Destiny, I played as a Titan, I believe, and
Nice.
I rather enjoyed it. I mostly spent my time playing it, running around and punching things.
Yeah.
That was primarily what I did. I didn't worry about shooting; I just punched things. So
So
it'll be
good.
hard. It'll be hard pressed for me to not play Titan just because I really enjoyed it the first time. Though playing through the classes with the open beta, I really liked Warlock. Their special flame sword bit was really kind of neat to me. It reminded me of Reinhardt in Overwatch, and I
Yes.
really liked that idea. Um, so that was kind of fun, and I wouldn't mind trying a different class. Hunter seemed rather boring to me.
Okay.
Wasn't a big fan of it, so I'm either gonna play Titan or Warlock. So I'm really excited for that. It's unfortunately another month I gotta wait, but
Yeah, that does kind of suck. Did you ever play through like a lot of the DLC for the first Destiny? Are you familiar with the other subclasses that they've added to this game?
unfortunately not. I played the main game and then the first DLC and I think the second one. I didn't get I didn't play too much of the last couple. I have them. I've paid for them. I just haven't played them, and and the reason for that it's on console. It's
Oh,
not on
sure.
PC. It's on console, and I haven't touched my console in months. So
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, well, I know that like they added the like they have like 2 subclasses, like the new ones that they have, and then the standard ones from the first game. But then they've added the ones from like the Taken King. So like the Hunter has like a bow, the Titan has like a hammer, like a kind of like throw a hammer, like you hit people with a
right,
hammer, and then like the Warlock has got like the Emperor Palpatine, like lightning, you must die, just flying around, just lightning people. And I haven't gotten that one yet, but like to get those other subclasses, you have to go and do a quest by yourself and kind of do this, and then like they give you the power like again and again, so you can keep trying it out. And it's just like a lot of fun just to get a new subclass. But yeah, man, I've been maining a Warlock, and I went back to Voidwalker, which I played in the first game, and I really dig that class. And you're talking about it does look, I'm sure it looks gorgeous on PC. It also does look good on a console. Like everything's just so pretty and flashy. I love just like absorbing people with like my melee when it's souped up and just like blowing people up with my grenades. Like the game's just it's really pretty. My question
yeah,
for you is: do you have a mouse, you mouse and keyboard kind of guy then?
yeah, and that was is the question about whether I'm going to play mouse or controller. Is that it?
Yeah, I was gonna say because I want to know if you like the feedback. Unless you have a, do you have a Rumble mouse? This is my
Yeah,
question.
I have the Xbox One Elite controller
Oh, sick.
for,
Well,
for my
dude, then
computer.
then then you're fine, baby. I'm just saying, like I like this game, John. Like the first game did the same thing. I could shoot just for like 5 hours and like not think about anything, and I'd be so happy because every gun feels so good, and just like the feedback in all the guns with the controllers, like oh, it's just so good. I'm like, oh, I love it so much.
Well, and
So
I had I had a conversation with my buddies while we were playing the beta um, about whether we were going to play with controller or keyboard or mouse. Now, a lot of the first-person shooter type games that we've played on PC, we'll play with controller. Like when Division came out, we all played that with controller, even though we're on PC, just because it was a nice game to lean back in your chair and sit with the
yep,
controller.
yep,
Um, but when we were playing the beta for Destiny 2, we all kind of went with keyboard and mouse, mostly for the precision, for aiming and whatnot.
yeah.
It made it much easier. And you'll see that a lot of conversations when it comes to first-person shooters or third-person shooters, that keyboard mouse generally is dominant over controller. Though, if I do want to sit back and relax, I'm absolutely using my controller when I play. It'll depend on what I'm doing. I think if I'm doing raids, I'll probably just keyboard mouse. If I'm just goofing around, running around doing things, I'll probably sit back with my controller.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I absolutely love about this game. I talked about it in that review of progress is that the game is whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be super competitive, you can do PvP, you can do the raids, you can do all that stuff that's like really high intensity, very stressful. However, if you want, you can just go on patrols, you can just play the campaign, you can just like chill and relax. Like you can just go and do like harder versions of those campaign missions once you're done and just really chill time. I was playing with Levi the other night, and it's just like we just sat and we just like talked as we were doing these missions. We didn't have to think about it too much. It's just like very easy, it's very handholdy. You just press a button, it's like go over there, and you're like, all right, I'm
Right.
shooting in that direction. You know, if you ever get lost. So yeah, man, it's whatever you want it to be, and I love that flexibility. I think that's just really something that a lot of people crave, even though they maybe don't want to say that. There's like, I just want a stupid shooter where I can just sit back and turn off my brain sometimes. Like, yep, that could be Destiny.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put lots of hours into Destiny 2. I can tell you that right now.
Dude, that's so cool. Anyway, I'm sorry I cut you off earlier about the graphics and stuff. You're talking about, like, we were talking about how pretty it is, and I didn't know if you had anything else to say about that.
Oh no, you pretty much covered it. I know on PC you get a little bit better frame rate. There's 4K optimization and things like that. I think they have 4K for this. I don't really know. I know the frames bit is big. I was watching gameplay on. I was watching Twitch and watching guys play it on console a little bit, and you can see that there's quite a difference between 30 and 60 frames.
Oh, totally. Yeah, man. I would love one day for all these games. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get to this point, but like if we got to a standard where it was just always 60 frames locked for just every game, even like shooters and stuff, just like butter on console would be really cool. I'd be like,
right. And there's always going to be that market for console because some people can't afford the money behind PC gaming. And I get that. I was a console gamer for many, many, many years before I went to PC. But you see more now that developers and production companies are putting out a PC version to get to those people that want to play at better graphics and things like that. There's nothing wrong with console gamers. I mean, I get it.
yeah.
I've been there, but for me, it's PC.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think one of the things is it appeals a little, obviously, to a lot of people. And one of the things that's really cool, I guess, about consoles, like when you buy a console and you buy a game that has like the console's name on it, like the nice thing is that you can go home and put that game in and it will play it. Like for PC, like eventually, if you're like years down the line, you're like, my PC, it's like you bought that game and it's like, yeah, your PC can't play this game. You're like, I have to like what? And you're like, you have to like crank down the settings, and you're like, you have to get a new graphics card and stuff. Like,
you see that. Yeah, you see that with expansions and whatnot. You're like, wait, I bought this game, and my computer can run it. And now you came out with this expansion, and now my computer can't run it. What's going on? So yeah, you get that occasionally.
Yeah, but there's, like you said, there's the pros, obviously, because like if you build one that you love and you understand it, then you can just like, yeah, instead of buying a new console, I'm like, I swapped a thing out and now it works and it's great and I love it so much. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to both. But I love that they're like, what's cool though is like they could have just said, you know what, we're not doing PC. We're just doing strictly console. And it's like, I'm glad that more developers are realizing that they're like, if they can do it for, Xbox and PlayStation, that they can also do it for PC too.
Now,
because
if we could only get the cross-platform play that everyone's ever been wanting.
I mean, know it's,
it wouldn't be fair for controller users against keyboard users, but we still want cross-console play.
Dude, that's a
cross-platform.
Yeah. Let's like at the very least just make PvP like I guess you cross-platform play between like Xbox and PlayStation, but like make the PvE like I want you to be able to join my fire team because I'm on Xbox. Right. Like I want to be able to be like in the same clan with you and like working on stuff with you and just be like screw like all this stuff, but just make it work, guys. Please, let's all just be friends and work together because we all want it. Obviously, you're a PC player and you saying that's huge because like for the console gamers, we're like we want this. PC people that probably don't care, but they're probably like just more people to play games with. Like who wouldn't want that? So.
So what are you looking forward to this month? Or this fall, rather?
That's a good question. The first one that actually just came out like last week, and it's just like it's going to take me a while to get to it, but Divinity Original Sin 2. Mm-hmm. I got a chance to play it over at PAX. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Divinity, aren't you?
Not really. I've been hearing a lot more about it with it coming out recently. I know a popular streamer I watch, Carnage, just played through the first one the last couple of weeks, and now he's playing through the new one. And I haven't heard bad things about it. I've got 4 or 5 guys in my regular play group that are currently playing it right now. So I know it's a very well-respected title.
Yeah, well, basically, like I said, I got to play at PAX a few weeks ago, and it is basically if you took Dungeons and Dragons and then like made it almost basically legitimately into a real, fully beautiful game, like realized game, and like it's just kind of like, hey, there might be a chest in this person's house, and if you want to get to that chest, you could like blow down the door and like go and try to steal from that, or like the guards might come and get you, or you might have to go try to find a key for something. It's like all these things you can just get lost in, and there's so many layers of all this stuff in the combat and all this stuff where you just kind of like doling out action points to like move around a battlefield and then use spells, use abilities. And from what my little bit of time playing The first game, it's been, I probably put like maybe 10 hours into that first one. Playing this new one, I could already tell like combat, they kind of streamline some things and you move along a little bit faster at a quicker clip, which is nice because these types of games, if you can get just like lost screwing around in a town for like 25, 30 hours, like it's good to be able to move quickly through like combat sometimes because you're like, I just want to move. But one of the things that's really cool about this franchise, John, is that you can like combo spells. So for instance, like you might cast like a grease spell, or like you crack open an oil barrel one turn and then you shoot like a fire, somebody shoots a fire onto it and it like lights on fire, or like there's a poison cloud and then you can blow up the poison cloud, or there's water on the ground and you can electrocute it and stun enemies for like a turn or two. So it's a lot of like combos and spells and lots of cool stuff, and it's just a really exciting game, a lot more fun with friends. Obviously, I always think games are better if you can play co-op, because if you play by yourself, you're just kind of like controlling just all the characters by yourself. That's fine, but like having another person control half the party and then be like, hey man, you should throw that flask, use that poison flask now, and the next turn I'm gonna throw a fireball in there and blow everybody up. But a big emphasis on story, on your character, kind of RPing that character. And in this one of the cool things is that you can be like, if you and I played together, John, you could be like the main villain of my story and I wouldn't necessarily even need to know it. Like you could be constantly doing bad things like out of my line of sight that I wouldn't know about, and then be like at the end of the game be like, it was me the whole time, and I'd be like, no.
So is it only co-op for 2 players, or how many friends can you have playing with you?
So in the first game it was 2, but I believe the sequel is 4. I think it's 4.
Let me see if I pull it up real fast.
Yeah, let me know if you find out, because I thought it was 4, because I was like, we talked about, because we just gotten into it. It was a gift from my buddy Simon. Thank you, Simon. But I got some other friends into it and they're like, this game's sweet. And I was like, what if I think in the next game there's going to be 4-player? And I was like, oh my God, like if we're all playing characters together, like that would be really, really sweet and a lot of fun. And I would get really into that because I love D&D and I love video games. And this is like the perfect marriage of the two. So yeah. And the Larian guys, the Larian Studios, those guys are really cool booth up there. And I want to play that game. I played 20 minutes and I barely, I didn't scratch the surface, John. I mean, like I put my hand on the surface, but there's like just depth, so much depth. I was like, I can't even, I tried to rush through the story even. I was like doing stuff. Oh man, it was really fun.
I heard that there is like lore wise, story wise, and for things to do, it's ridiculously deep. I know, when I was watching Ko play through the first one a little bit, he was saying he was talking to one guy who hasn't even beaten the game, and he's easily put in over 300 hours into just one single playthrough. So I know I've been told that the story is very, very rich and very deep.
Yes,
and that's one of their big selling points.
Yeah, for sure.
As far as multiplayer goes, on the Steam page, it only says multiplayer, co-op, online co-op, local co-op, that old bit. I haven't seen anything as far as numbers.
Okay, I might have to. We might have to. I'm tempted to Google it. I do want to check it out because I'm hoping. I thought it was 4 players. I guess I didn't double check that with them while I was there. I should have, but I just I'm pretty sure it was 4 because there was a group of 3 there that I got in line with, and they all played together. So I think there was like 3 of them. So I think that might go in part of
that would make sense, right?
So I hope so, because it sounded like those guys were playing together because they all got up at like the same time and left after we got kind of buzzed out. But yeah, I'm really hopeful for that because I would love to like play with you and like play with like Leo and Levi or something like that, or you play with like you 3 buddies, and like how much more fun would that game be if you all had a person to control and you're just all like, all right guys, we really need to coordinate our tactics and our strategies here, otherwise we're all gonna die.
Yeah, I think I'll probably take a little bit more of a look at it and see if it's something I would enjoy. I never played the first one. The first one came out however many years ago, I don't even know. Because I believe this was a Kickstarter funded sequel. So
the first one came out I think in 2014. So like a few years ago, and I always had heard about it. And I was like, oh, it seems like, and I heard about the game. It was one of those where I was like, oh, it's really deep and there's a lot to it. And there's like so many hours worth that I have to put into it. But after playing it just a little bit, and they had a little questionnaire after we left, and it was like, did you ever leave the first town in your first game? And I was like, technically I haven't yet. So I think a lot of people got to that first town and were just like playing with all of the mechanics in the game and just never left. Like,
I've heard that the voice acting is very well done as well. They went really out of the park on voice acting.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're an independent studio, and they made this crazy, crazy, crazy RPG that's got all this stuff, and they are always adding stuff. They added some of that voice acting like later on too, I think, and it was just like they just the love of this game. They just made it just as deep and beautiful and polished as they possibly could, and it really shows, at least in that first game, and now in the second one, especially making new like races and character classes on top of all of that stuff, and then like undead variants. I think of like all the classes or all the races. I was like, what? It's like,
Right.
geez, you guys are going just like so crazy. I just really appreciate it. And you could tell they love it. They're an independent studio who just loves what they do. And I really want to get into that game. So I need to pick it up soon because it'll just be like, that's a bang for your buck type of game. Because when you buy
Right.
that game, you're not worried about like, am I getting enough content? It's like, you're getting too much. Like,
Well, I'm
it's
looking
like,
at it right now, and it's I think $45 for the base version.
seriously? What? That's
Yeah, only
amazing.
45. And see, and for me, whenever I purchase a game, I value my time at $1 an hour when I play a game. So if I get 45 hours worth of gameplay out of Divinity Original Sin 2, which I believe is easily possible, I'm more than happy with the money I spent on it.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I'm
That's a
gonna,
good way to look at it.
I'm definitely gonna take a longer look at this. I think I'd enjoy that. I'm gonna look at it
Yeah,
some more.
definitely. Well, I want to know, like, if you do pick it up, let me know because I want to hear your thoughts on it. Regardless, if we do it, if you tell me your thoughts in person or if you
Maybe
tell
we both should.
me, maybe we both should.
Maybe.
I would love to actually because I was talking to somebody else who's been playing it for review, and he said I was like, "Hey man, have you been playing solo? Or are you gonna play co-op?" He's like, "I gotta play co-op for the review," and I was like, "Well, I might know a guy. I just need a reason. Just give me a reason." But yeah, I'm excited to try it out. And again, we're gonna be late on it, but this is a game that like it's gonna take forever to review anyway. So I just want to get out there and stream it and play it. So yeah,
Right.
that's one game that I'm excited about. John, tell me another game that you're excited about for this fall.
Well, coming out actually in October the 17th, so before Destiny, will be South Park, the second South Park game, the Fractured But Whole.
Yes.
Um, that comes out on the 17th, with Destiny comes out on the 24th for PC. So I have a week to play the second South Park RPG.
That's probably better that way as opposed to the other way around because Destiny would be like, the new South Park game came out, but Destiny still's like I could put like 200 hours into or whatever.
Well, and I don't know if it'll be the game you'll talk about next or if we'll talk about a different time, but like Call of Duty comes out like 2 weeks after Destiny. That's being put way back on the shelf because of Destiny. But South Park, I'm really excited for, just because I enjoyed the first one so much, and just it's hilarious. I don't know if you enjoy the South Park genre, and if you played the first one.
I didn't play the first one. I saw a lot about it, and the first one, if I remember correctly, was more kind of like fantasy role playing. Wasn't that like the
Right.
kids were trying to do? Because
Yep.
this one's more like superhero based. And
Correct.
is it still the same type of combat? Is my question. I didn't
I
see.
believe so. I mean, a lot of it looks similar to the first one, but you're absolutely right. The first one was kind of D&D themed, fantasy esque, and this one's going to be superhero. Uh,
Cool.
so it's going to be a little bit different, but I think the combat is the same.
Yeah, sweet. So, like, what was it about the first game or about the sequel besides just it being South Park? Is there something mechanically that you just really loved about it, or is it just South Park's humor and you get to be in that world, play in that world, make a character in that world that you're like, yes, I can't wait to get back in there?
The humor, the playing, being a playable character in that world, I think is pretty fun. I don't generally play a lot of turn-based combat style games like the first one, and what I assume
Sure,
this one
sure.
is as well. But in the past, one of my all-time favorite games is Chrono Cross, which is a similar play style to, say, Final Fantasy, that turn-based style, um, which South Park is also. And I don't play a lot of games like that, but when I find one I enjoy, I play the crap out of it. So
Yeah.
I played through the first South Park twice. I am like 90% on a full completion, I think.
Oh, okay, cool.
Um, but it's just I really enjoy playing in that world. I think the humor's great. I know it's not up some people's alleys. Some people don't like that crude humor
Mhm.
and things like that. But I love it, and I'm very excited to play it.
Cool. Is there any character in particular from South Park that you love the most that you like to interact with in that world?
I mean, who doesn't love Cartman?
I was like,
Who
is it gonna be Cart? It's like if that's totally fine. I didn't want to just be like, is it Cartman? I was just like, but I understand that, especially if you get to go up and like talk and be like, hey man, like how's it going? And he's just kind of like swearing at you, and you're like, all right, man.
Well, and I remember the in the first game when you create your character, you give he's like, oh, this is my character's name, and he goes, and it was something along the lines. He's like, are you sure you want to be called douchebag? And you're like, no, this is my name. And he goes, oh, okay, douchebag, and that's your name. Cartman calls you that for the rest of the game.
Sure, yeah. That's a smart way to
So
get around like any type of name that you would ever pick, because he's like, I'm just calling you that. Like for the voice acting, there's like that's just the word. You don't have to switch it.
right.
You know? Yeah, that's funny.
Well, and I
Cool.
think, and one of the things I like about South Park is they take different, they take from the real world and
Yeah.
bring humor to it, or kind of poke at it a little bit here and there. And I'm excited to see what they've done in the second game to kind of poke fun at what's happening around us now.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that they pushed this game back a little bit, I thought, didn't they? I thought it was going to release like a little while ago, and they pushed it back a couple of months.
I think the original release was supposed to be like February, and then they kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And a lot of that has to do with, I believe it's an EA title or Ubisoft title.
Yes, I
And
think it's Ubisoft.
right, a lot of the delays are coming from the South Park creators and that team, because they, from what I understand, Ubisoft came to them about creating a game, and one of their stipulations to making it was that it was on their timeline and their rules, basically, that they got to decide this is how it's going to be, so that they could make it their game and make it a good game. Because when we've seen Ubisoft and such companies push games out way too early, and that they're not even close to being done, but they've pushed it for full release, and they get all kinds of negative reviews on it. So they've been pushing it back to make sure that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So it's been pushed back by quite a bit, but I think now this is pretty much dead set, ready to release. So
Cool. Well, I'm hopeful that you get a chance to play a lot of it before Destiny comes out the week after, and you just kind of feel sated. But it might be a nice palate cleanser because it's so different from Destiny 2, where you can say,
sure.
"Hey, I played some bunch of Destiny 2 tonight, but maybe I just want to play like a few like story missions or whatever back in good old South Park."
Sure, it's a great, for me, it's nice to have a single player game to go play once in a while.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm right there with you, dude. Sometimes you're like, guys, I have free time to play games tonight, but I just like want to play by myself, and I don't want to like be on Destiny, for instance, and then they like see you playing. You're like, maybe I'm just doing stuff by myself. Like, hey, dude, why aren't you playing this? No, you're just like, I'm just playing a single player game. I'm just hanging out tonight, playing Horizon or something.
Right. So yeah, I look for that. But what else are you looking forward to? I know there's one or two more big title games coming out at the end of the year.
I wanted to bring up there were two I was thinking about, but I'm actually going to take one back because we're talking about turnstile-based combat, and I just keep preaching about this game. I just did a video about it, but Battle Chasers Night War, I really can't go on about enough. It's coming out here in a couple of weeks, October 3rd, I believe, and it is the same art by the Joe Madureira, the guy who did the art for the Darksiders franchise, animated by Steve Madureira, the guy I interviewed who did some of the animations for Darksiders and now this game, and a bunch of other things. And it's so cool because the game looks amazing. The combat feels incredibly good. Like so good, John. Like every hit you can feel it. And that's why I just love a controller, because I was like, even though I was playing on PC, I had like an Xbox controller, and I was like, yeah, this feels great. And I just love how those worlds are designed, or just love that artistic vision. And I just can't wait to get in there and like play with like, there's like, get like 3 characters, but then you can switch them in and out, or like kind of change up your party. And it's very just dungeon crawlery, and apparently the dungeons are always changing. It's very loot driven, but it seems like it's a cool story, even though I'm not familiar with Battle Chasers. It was an old comic from years ago, and that they're kind of reviving in this format. And I'm just really excited to play it because I think it was also Kickstarter funded. And yeah,
I just pulled up the Kickstarter. I'm watching the video right now.
It's gorgeous, and they have like a cool like hand drawn like animated cutscene for it too. And I'm like, this game looks incredible. Like I'm like so in love with that art style, and just playing it, and it just looks so pretty and feels so good, and it's just so much fun. I just wanted to sit there and play it the rest of the day. And the attention to detail is so high that even when you're looking through like the monster manual or whatever, if you fight somebody, it'll like pop up like, oh, this is what a bandit looks like, and here's the bandit's weaknesses, its strengths, and like maybe the moves it can do, and the bandit's actually like moving in the book, so it's like the animated version of whatever thing that you've faced in the past. And it's just really cool. And every fight felt good. They said one of the things they didn't want to do is have just like a regular attack button, because in most RPGs they're like, yeah, you can always just fall back just hitting an attack button. But in this game, it's like almost everything costs mana or some sort of energy source, and everything can like has an additional effect, as opposed to usually just like a one just like I just did damage and did nothing else and didn't do anything to myself or didn't like buff myself or debuff them. But everything in this game has that, where it's like, yeah, even like a regular punch you think is regular, it's like it debuffs that person, but it costs you a little bit of mana. And so, learning how to play with that, and then also saying like, hey, maybe you're just going to buff this one character to do a lot of damage and then shield this person. This person's just going to do all the attacking for you because this person's going to attack and taunt at the same time. So it's like really getting that synergy with your crew. And I was just thinking like, oh man, this game feels good, looks good, can't wait to play it, man. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, I just pulled it up on Steam. I'm taking a look at. That's also a selling point for me. Is anything on Steam, I'm willing to take a look at.
Exactly.
But it does look pretty good. The art style it looks nice. The cinematics for using different abilities looks pretty good. So I'm gonna add this to my list, and I mean for the right price, I might take a look at it. Again, I'm not wild. I don't usually play a lot of turn-based combat games.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta find ones that you like.
But it looks interesting, so I'll definitely think I'll give it a look. I don't know if I'll get it, but I'll look at it some more.
Yeah, well, I'll stream it so that way you come in a chat there. You moderate it up, and you can see it for yourself in live action, hopefully, regardless
Absolutely.
of whatever I get it on. I'll probably get it on PC as long as I can use the controller with it, just because it felt so good.
Well, yeah. Flashback to our controller keyboard discussion. Full controller support. So that's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah. Oh man, some of these Kickstarters, man. Like I think about this, like Darkest Dungeon, some of these other games where you think like back in the day, Kickstarter was kind of like, oh, it would happen, but then sometimes it would fail. But it's like now we're getting some really incredibly cool looking games, fun games that are just happen to be Kickstarted. So it's just like, thank you for the people who decided.
You get that. You get the quality ones, which this Battle Chasers and like Darkest Dungeons, from those that really a group of people and producers and developers that care and know what people want. They have a good idea what players generally want for a game, and that's where you get these successes like Darkest Dungeon and probably Battle Chasers. There's so much out there that there's a lot of bad stuff. There's tons of bad stuff out there on Kickstarter and whatnot, and Steam's Greenlight project or whatever.
Yeah.
But once in a while, you'll get the ones that are really made by those that aren't trying to push something for money or recognition or something. They want to make their game and make it good. And I think this is definitely going to be one of those.
Yeah, and that's why I'm excited, because they were so passionate about it. You could tell that they actually just loved this title and love this style of game. And I'm just like, oh, thank goodness, because like it does kind of revive an old school like dungeon crawling, just like turn-based JRPG style thing that isn't random battles. Like you see everybody on the map. I don't know if South Park is the same way, but I know in turn-style based games, I absolutely hate just like that old school, like FF10 even does this, or Dragon Quest 8, where just like you're running around, it's like, and you're just like, oh god, like just the limitations back in the day. But now we can see these things, and you can be like, I want to aggro that guy, but not all these guys, and just kind of the strategy that goes in there. And man, yeah, I just can't wait to play it. I'm just excited to play some more of it because I didn't get enough, John.
It looks good. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. All right, but what's the last thing, John? Give me one last thing that looks good for you this fall.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, there's Call of Duty World War II, which I have a soft spot for World War I and II era games and things like that in history. There's that. It's on the back burner because games like Destiny. I look forward to it. I don't know how much I really want to talk about it because it's Call of Duty. Boots on the ground. It's good to know. Other than that, I mean, Wolfenstein 2. I only recently started playing. I only recently got into the Wolfenstein games with New Order and Old Blood, and I really enjoyed Old Blood. New Order was okay, but I'm intrigued enough to play the new Wolfenstein. I don't know if you've seen that much at all.
Yeah, I actually have some of the like press conferences and things, and then we were gonna go to the booth there at PAX because apparently they were giving out milkshakes if at the Wolfenstein booth. So if you like went and played, I was like, that's pretty great. Like, I was like, go play some Wolfenstein, get a shake or whatever.
I'm here for the milkshake, guys.
Exactly, and shoot Nazis.
Right. That's part of the reason why I love it. It's like, who doesn't love shooting Nazis?
Yeah,
we're not going to get into anything going on recently, but like video game wise, who doesn't like shooting Nazis?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's enjoyable. I really enjoyed playing New Order and Old Blood. It's futuristic. The whole storyline between Wolfenstein is futuristic. What if they won type of bit. So there's some strange things on it. I prefer realism in my games, but it looks like fun. It's a Bethesda game. I'm willing to try pretty much anything Bethesda. So I'm excited for that. That's another one that comes out on the 27th of October.
Yeah, this October is like so
So
stacked.
it is. It
Super
really
Dogs
is. If
coming out.
if you're a fan of racing games, there's a bunch of racing games coming out. There's Forza and Gran Turismo in October. So like it's a busy month specifically for the fall games coming out. But that's Wolfenstein. I'm gonna wait on that just like I'm gonna wait on Call of Duty again because Destiny is gonna just consume my life. But that's pretty much it. How about anything else for you?
Well, yeah. Last thing I just want to say about Wolfenstein quick. Did you ever watch like the Man in High Castle, Man from the High
No,
Castle?
but I want to
Okay,
watch it. I've
I was
heard
saying,
good things.
John, if you have Amazon Prime, man, like you just, or we'll find a way to get you to watch it because you talk about liking watching like basically that same scenario, but just like straight realism for the most part. That's what that show is. It's like, yeah,
I've
what happens?
wanted I've wanted to watch it so bad.
I think you'd like it. It's not all perfect, but it's like it's just intriguing. Like just the premise itself, and then just the whole. There's just this power struggle between Germany and Japan eventually, where the Japanese are like, "Yeah, you know, the Germans are probably gonna try to destroy us still, right?" It's like this whole thing. It's like, oh, but yeah, I think you'd love that show, especially if you're into Wolfenstein nowadays. But last thing for me, I was gonna say Assassin's Creed Origins, just because I like a lot of the change up, and I've always wanted to go to Egypt, but I got rid of that one for Battle Chasers. But I'm excited and I'm hopeful. A Middle Earth Shadow of War is really good. I'm sure it's going to be a lot like the same of the first game. And I know maybe not a lot of people are excited about that, but for me, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like a super stressful game for me. And it was just fun to be in just a high budget Lord of the Rings game because we haven't had one of those for a long time, even though you get to be just like stupid powerful. You're just like, yep, I do whatever I want. Like,
Right. I heard good things about the first one. I picked it up for dirt cheap on a Steam sale and played about 2 hours of it before I went off to play another game, and I enjoyed it. It's what's the WB or DC,
yeah,
the creators behind it or whatever. They have a very distinct play style. Like the Batman games the Middle Earth games play very similar to the Batman games, the Arkham games that I know you enjoy.
yeah, definitely. And that's what it is. I think it's like they're Monolith Studios, but then Rocksteady's the one who kind of made that combat. So that's why it's
Right.
very similar. WB is probably like, hey, can you do the same thing, but just lop off people's heads instead? And they're like, all right,
Right.
sure. So,
When they announced Shadow of War, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. That looks really nice." Because I know the first one was well received. Visually, it looks really nice, and I mean, I know I could go back and play the first one. I am less excited about Shadow of War because of recent things that have happened with what's going on with what they're trying to sell. Apparently, they've put in microtransactions,
yeah, yeah,
which some companies can do microtransactions right. From what I understand, and I've only just read a few things. What I understand is that these microtransactions for these games are completely unnecessary, and it's almost exactly just for a money grab. And then what really kind of killed it for me was I don't know what cause it was for. I want to say maybe hurricane. It was it was they had either someone in the development group or something. It was on Steam. Um, Someone in the group related to the project for the first one pass away, so they put in
oh yeah,
some type of monument or tribute to them in the game or in a DLC, and they set it up so that proceeds from that purchase for the DLC would go towards this foundation. Except the problem is that there in small text on it, it would say only applicable in the continental US. So okay, so proceeds from people that buy it in those states go to this foundation, but if you purchase it elsewhere in the world and you don't read the small print, it's going right to their wallet and not to this foundation when they advertise it being for this foundation. And reading that, and they may have fixed it. I don't know. I haven't read up on it. If
yeah. I
reading that,
remember
that
hearing
really kind of hurt it for me, and it's like that's kind of shady.
Oh, for sure. I remember hearing something that they kind of came out with announcements saying like, yeah, we're not even going to break even, from like everybody else still buying this around the world for this DLC, no matter what happens. And I was like, yeah, but still, that's kind of weird. Which I completely agree. That's weird and wrong. Like you probably shouldn't do that at all. And I don't know if that was just like a thing that was like they could only give it to people in the States or like to the company in the States or the foundation in the States, not from other places. I don't know.
Oh, and I get it. There's probably tons of legal stuff behind
Yeah,
it, but
litigation and stuff like
right. And again, they may have fixed it. I could be completely wrong, but from what I understood and what I read, it's just like that seems really bad.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you there. But about the microtransactions, basically to me that was more like whale bait. Basically, there's some people out there, John, believe it or not, who like they'll get these games and they're totally happy putting in like 100 bucks just so they can get through the game in like half the time because they're like, I don't have time for this, I'm making money or I'm just doing this other stuff. So a lot of it seems to like expedite the process of the game or get you like more powerful minions. That would be a problem if there's like a PvP aspect to this game, but
Mm-hmm.
because there isn't, it doesn't really bother me as long as it's like still a pretty steady clip to get the in-game currency, because then it starts to infringe on like that mobile territory where it's like, well, you can get this stuff, but it's going to take you like 5 hours, but for like $5 it could be ready right now. It's like, as long as they don't do that kind of crap, I'll be fine, because it's like, I don't want to be thinking about that when I'm playing this game, trying to take over Mordor and be like, well, you got to wait like 15 hours, otherwise you got to buy this new currency. So I don't think it's that way. We just have to wait and see if like how frequently we get these things, like the currency to buy the minions or whatever else we need to do in the game, because the first game didn't have any of that really. It was just like, here's the game, like go up, go nuts. So
Right.
yeah, you're
Game
right.
wise, it's probably going to be a very good game. I mean, you
Yeah,
look at the first one, and it was wonderful from what I understand. It's just for me, I find it hard to support a company that would either does malicious transactions, malicious microtransactions. A friend of mine, Bennett, and I believe you know Bennett.
oh yeah,
He loved the first one, and he was super excited for the second one for Shadow of War. And I take Bennett's opinion when it comes to video games pretty highly because he does a very good job at looking at what a game is and what it can provide and kind of reviewing them, similar to what you do. He doesn't do it say videos or podcasts. He's very good at telling you what he thinks, and he's honest about it. And when he told me about that and kind of read it up on some more, it was just kind of when he's like, yeah, I'm not. When he told me he wasn't getting it because of those things, it's like, okay, this must really be a problem.
yeah, geez, that sounds really rough, man. I guess I knew a little bit about it, but I guess I haven't researched it enough to know exactly
Right.
what all the rest of it is or
Right.
what you.
And this was like a month ago or more that I seen it come up. So they may have, and I hope for their sake, as far as a company trying to sell a game, I hope they fix it and hope they did something to right whatever wrong they may have done. But
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's one of my favorite things about the video game. Video games, just like a medium, is because a lot of times in like movies and TV shows, like it's too late to fix something or whatever. But like
mhm,
in video games, people will just scream at you and yell at you and just like all over the board, or be like very nice and just say like, hey, this really bothers me. And then eventually enough stuff happens where they're like, yep, we're gonna change this. I mean, you look at something as like Overwatch with like Tracer. She had like a certain pose that didn't really reflect who Tracer was, and like people were freaking out about it. And they're like, guys, we will fix it. Like it's fine. We'll fix it right now. We're so sorry. We didn't think about this. And it's just like, oh, it's just so they have to be responsive because
right,
video games are such living, breathing things. Whereas like a movie, you put it out and you're like, I can't patch the movie. Like I could do like a director's cut and be like, we took that scene out, but it might be too late. People hate it. But like a game, you could be like, yep, we screwed up. Everybody's getting this thing for free. Let's not talk about it. We're so sorry.
right.
Like
Well, and
that's
then
all I have to do.
did you ever play The Division?
I did, yeah.
Did you play it on launch day?
I was like roughly there on launch day, or like a day or two
It
after.
was a hot mess on
Yeah, it
launch
was.
day.
Yeah, that whole game was just like
Um, the first month of that game was a hot mess,
it was. Yeah,
and
so sad.
I put in almost 400 hours into it,
Whoa.
but it was bad. There was a lot of things wrong with it. They've fixed a majority of it, but it went so long without either getting information from that company or things being fixed that so many people put the game down and never wanted to touch it again, or they negatively reviewed it and just made it so people didn't want to buy it. I mean, Steam has a very good system for the reviews, and I mean, really, I base a lot of my game purchases whether or not those reviews are positive or not. Um, and they fixed a lot of the problems. They went back, they changed a lot of stuff, and they made it really good, and made a lot of things playable again. But it happened too late,
Yeah.
so that the player base for that game is now so small that no one really cares that they fixed it.
Yep, exactly. And unless they do like another big expansion, kind of if we're looking at something like the first Destiny, where I think it kind of had a steep drop off just because like everybody was hyped about it because they wanted that kind of Halo-esque game, see what Bungie was doing, and then they're kind of like, it's fine. And it's not that Destiny was bad, but at the same time, it's like it took a while before they're like, here is like the Destiny we wanted you to have. Like Division needs to have that thing where it comes back and be like, hey, here's our big expansion that like fixes a lot of the problems. It gets people excited about it and gets ready for that. But I don't know for Division. I think it's probably too little, too late.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and for Shadow of War, I would suggest to your viewers and listeners that to look it up for yourself, and see what you think about that, and see if they've fixed it and adjusted things, and
Yeah.
kind of looked at that. So I'm sure,
Yeah.
again, I'm sure it'll probably be a great game as the first one was. So just take a look at it for your guys' self.
Yeah, exactly. And I should look into it too, because that's something I would like to know about, because I don't want to like, support something that's weird and shady like that either. Just I love Lord of the Rings and see it. Like I might not have known about that. And I'm sure the masses might not necessarily know about that sort of thing. I will say this though, side note too, it has a really, really good live action trailer that just came out for recently. So regardless if you support the game or not, just check it out. It's like watching Lord of the Rings, but like super crazy, like like magical powers and stuff.
A lot of games and movies have mostly games have done that, where they'll have a live action trailer connected to it, and they all look so good.
Yeah, some of them like especially, but like I think like this one, but like Destiny, the first one, and this
Oh,
new one is good. Destiny 2 is good. But, like seriously, if you go back and watch that first
for
Destiny,
the puppies.
for the puppies, that's so good. But like the first one, man, where they're just playing like I think it's like the immigrant song, and there's like three buddies just going around the world. They're like Venus or whatever, and they're just like having a good time. Like that game is encapsulated in that little beautiful live action trailer. And I'm like,
Right.
it's so good. I'm like the budget. Like I love the trailers and the budget.
Oh yeah, the trailers are great. Live action bits great. Do you have any idea like how many copies of Destiny 2 were sold? Mainly just specifically for the puppies bit. I'm sure it's countless.
I'm sure too. Yeah, I watched it afterwards. I was like,
God, that was
that's what
so funny.
I was like, that's so good because it kind of embeds a little bit of like what the Call of Duty humor is sometimes, like that old like anyone can. There's a soldier in all of us kind of thing. It's just like
Right.
a little bit of humor, but still kind of having like kind of giving it more of a personality. Because that's the problem I think the first Destiny had is it didn't have much of a personality. This one's more of kind of like, hey, Cade's here and he's like holding a chicken or whatever. He's kind of making jokes and pointing at you, and it's like he's like bring out the big guns. He's like, no, seriously, guys, go get the biggest guns. It's like, oh, okay, got it. So yeah, I love it. Or like it's just like a touch of Borderlands, but not overdone like Borderlands. So yeah, man. But I'm excited. I'm excited. There's so many good games coming out. Yeah, John, we got too many games. There's so many games. I can't wait.
It's gonna be a busy fall into spring, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we want to hear your favorite games, guys. Please let us know in the comments below what games you are most excited about, or which games you want to see us stream here on the channel or over on Twitch, I should say, because I'm really looking forward to it, especially that Battle Chasers. Oh, gotta love it. All right. Anyway, before we get into the next segment of the show, John, I just have to take a moment to salute our commander, Jonathan Larson. Thank you so much. Jonathan is our commander. He is our $100 patron. As I knock the mic over because I'm just so excited. Jonathan likes to say this quote all the time. He says, their fate concerns me, yours does not. Thank you, Jonathan. If you want to see how you can support us, check us out on patreon.com, but we'll talk about that later on. Anyway, it's time to go into the next segment of the show that Joe usually segues us into, but I'm going to do it this time because we're going into Time Killers. And that's right. It is time for Time Killers. The games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, the TV shows we've been viewing. John, what you've been playing lately, buddy?
Well, I'm a little embarrassed to mention that I may be re-addicted to WoW. You know, there's I had started. I played Hellblade. I played like 4 hours of that when that came out, and then I got really into playing Path of Exile. They came out with their new expansion and that in like mid-August, and I played a ton of that, and I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I was like, man, I really want another RPG to play, and there wasn't really one that was jumping out at me. And then I was like, hey, WoW just came out with some more stuff. Let's go ahead and start this up again. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, and I haven't stopped playing.
The old standby.
Yeah, I know. It's embarrassing. It's so old.
Dude,
so am I. But other than that, I'll play WoW solo, and then I've been actually playing a lot with Kate, your sister, my wife, because she really enjoys it. So I've been playing that with her, and then Battlegrounds. So pretty much just those two.
Cool, man. Nice. You've been watching any shows or anything? I know you say you don't go out to movies a lot, but is there anything you've been watching lately?
Well, I've actually, from talking about shows with the guy at work, I started watching Trailer Park Boys from the start of season 1. I'm
gotcha.
I'm almost done with that. I'm also going to get back to watching. I'm like halfway through all of the 20 or so seasons of South Park.
Oh, gotcha.
Just
Nice.
I'm a night for those, most of you don't know this, but I work nights. I stay up all night and there's nothing to do but play games and watch shows. So I get a lot of time to kill by watching short episodes of shows. So yeah,
Cool.
so a lot of Trailer Park Boys, South Park, and then I want to catch up on Marvel Netflix that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to hear what you think about Defenders and all that stuff. Oh boy, cool. On my end, I have been watching like the last like few seasons of The Office. I kind of got back. I never like really finally like watched like there's 9 seasons.
You could have just skipped, especially the last season.
I know. And I originally I'd only watched the last episode, but I kind of like picked up in like the mid part of season 8, and like I've been watching season 9. Boy, is it not great. It is I can honestly tell you guys this. It is so painful, the power vacuum that was left by Michael Scott. There are still like moments here and there that are kind of like slightly interesting for some of the long running characters on there, but man, like not only do they have a problem where they kind of make Andy Bernard or Ed Helms' character become Michael Scott, but they introduce a bunch of new characters, and then there's a bunch of like side characters like Kevin Malone, who gets so much screen time because they've got nobody who's like gonna do that. It feels so weird. It feels honestly very sad, and I want to see the numbers. I want to know what happened in that last season, because going into that last season, I think they knew it was the last one.
It wasn't good. It was so bad.
Well, they started addressing like the actual cameramen even more so, which I thought was like a fascinating take, because all those years, like some of them would kind of like nod at like the camera and be like, like kind of we know you're there. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how it goes, and I know how it truly wraps up, but I'm kind of slogging my way through that. But at the same time, because season 8 starred James Spader, started watching the newest season of The Blacklist, where he is at his best. I could watch Raymond Reddington go around with his fedora and shoot people for hours, and I totally have, and I totally will, and I love that show. It's so good. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, this is the only reason I want to watch this. Just cut everything else out. So that's that. But I've been playing Destiny 2. That's just been like my game recently. It's just gorgeous, and we've already talked about it. So yeah, that's what I've been killing time with. Now, John, it's time to get into the final section of the show, my favorite section, community feedback and questions. And last week we asked everybody, or this week I should say, to give us your It reviews and your Destiny 2 reviews. So here from Night Warrior 29, he says he doesn't know anything about the It movie. As for Destiny 2, it's nothing crazy, some good graphics and smooth movement and gameplay. Basically, it's Destiny 1 with some improvements, 6 out of 10. Now that is some honesty right there. I appreciate that.
But isn't that most sequels though? It's usually the same as the first, just more story and a couple things added. So for the majority of the crowd, you're going to get a lot of 6 out of 10 answers when it comes to sequels.
Oh, totally. And I think another part to that too is like I didn't really play the DLC, even though I knew it was out there. So for a lot of people, they might feel kind of shortchanged if they played through all the Destiny DLC and they played this one, because it's like a new campaign and everything. But it's like there's no brand new subclass. There's no actual brand new fully functional class. So if that first DLC that's supposed to come out maybe in December comes out with like a brand new class, I could see an uproar about that, where they're like, why didn't you like get that in the game? So we'll see. I don't know how that's going to go, but
I mean, the biggest thing for Destiny 2 Destiny this time around is the fact that it's going to be on PC. There is such a player base that either didn't play the first one or didn't want to play the first one because it wasn't on PC. And now that it is, it's going to bring a ton more people in, a lot of new people, and that's what's important for the franchise. So it's getting that hype, even though it is basically the same as the first one.
Yeah, and a long time ago, I know they said they were going to try to support this franchise for like 10 years, not necessarily the first game, but I'm wondering if Destiny 3 or Destiny 2 is kind of what they wanted Destiny 1 to be, and I'm thinking that eventually Destiny 3 will be like the full culmination of like what they want, like the full vision version where it's like...
Do we know if they're working on a third?
You know what? I thought a while ago they talked about it being a trilogy. I wouldn't be surprised at all, but obviously they'll work on this one for a couple more years, and then, they'll probably do the same thing. But by that time, we'll probably get a fourth, maybe even a fifth class, and maybe they'll go even crazier with...
I'll have to see how the second one plays out to see if it warrants a third one. Usually a second sequel or a third game is usually too much in most franchises.
Yeah, well, it's Bungie. I mean, they're like make Halo games forever until they're like, all right, we're not making that anymore. Here's the
we don't talk about Halo's past. I mean, even really past Halo 2. I mean, sure. Halo 3 was okay. Halo 2 is where it's at. I've heard Reach was okay. It's fine. It was Reach. It was neat. But past Halo 2, we don't talk about it.
All right. Roger that. Sounds good. I played Halo 5 recently. Like, that finished it up. I just went back to beat the campaign. I was like, it's fine.
I played like an hour of it and went, this isn't my Halo.
I love Griffball though. That's a fun game.
I grew up. I would from whatever year from the release date of Halo 2 to the release date of Halo 3, I spent every waking hour playing Halo 2. That was me growing up. It was
really?
that's how special Halo 2 is to me.
Oh really?
Has
cool,
a special
man.
place in my heart.
Dude, yeah, I get that. I kind of missed that a little bit, but I remember playing Halo 2 and just like the very beginning, just getting like dual SMGs and thinking like, this is really fun. And I'm just like, and then like Halo 3 getting to do like Forge and stuff. Like I had a lot of fun in that game. A lot of fun.
Right. Yeah.
Our question this week comes in from our friend Missile Mage. It says, there's always a lot said about whether a game is good or reference to Metacritic scores, but a lot of the time, whether a game is good or not comes down to personal taste. Is there any games you particularly enjoyed that were universally not liked, or vice versa? John, are there any games that you can think of off the top of your head? Because I have a few that were kind of like maybe not reviled or hated, but a few where I was like, I really like this game, but people were like, eh.
Well, why don't you talk about yours? I'm gonna browse through my playlist and see if there's any I have on here.
Yeah, and I don't like to. Well, I was trying to look at the games I own here, like right above the camera, and I was like looking at all of them, like all of these, and this is not to sound like very self indulgent, but like all of these games are like pretty highly respected. So like I couldn't. There wasn't like one up there. I was like that one. But two that come to mind right away, and I think Missile Mage might guess this, and I'm sure Joe would be right there with me. At its release, I think people were giving it pretty decent scores, but kind of got hated or just forgotten, I should say, over time. But Evolve, the fervor there, and there's a special place in my heart for that game, where that first week or two was just like so magical. Even the beta was really, really crazy cool. I'd never played anything quite like it. And I really enjoyed that game, but eventually people just kind of like lost track of it, and then it turned to free to play. And usually for people who love video game enthusiasts, when we hear a game is shifting to free to play, like it gets in like this weird, scary area where it's like, I don't know. If I want
once a game goes from either like a subscription base or like a pay to play, then it goes to free to play. Everyone's kind of like, what's wrong with the game now? Like,
yeah, it's like,
why is it going free to play? Why, like, what's going on? And a lot of people don't touch that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like especially with that game, it was like so touted, and like it was such like it was winning like the best of E3 awards, and there was such a buzz around it, and there's like such a community they're trying to build off it, and then it kind of like just died out, and it was just like now it's just like a dead game. It's just like so sad. Another one that comes to mind, and that's a 360 game here, that I really, really enjoyed, that got like pretty average scores, or like 75s on Metacritic, but like, or 76, was Warhammer Space Marine, Warhammer 40K Space Marine. It's a third-person action shooter game where like you go around and you just basically rip orcs apart. And it's incredibly good, and it feels really good, and everyone should play it, and they should make a sequel of it, and not what they're doing right now, like a legit sequel, because it's so friggin' good, and I love it so much. And that's just like one where I'm like, why it needs more love and acclaim, but it didn't happen. So yeah, those are like two that came to mind right away. But John, is there anything that like for you that any games that you're looking at your Steam library where like, I love this or hate this?
One game that I played a little bit of, me and a buddy enjoyed it quite a bit and laughed about it quite a bit. My Summer Car. It's got a fairly positive review on Steam. It's basically there's a weird story behind it. I'm not going to get into it, but you basically start with a car from scratch, and you have to put it together and make it run, and while doing all kinds of other different, like it has some, I want to say RPG elements, but like survival elements. That's the proper term. It's got some survival elements with eating and drinking and things like that. It's not a great looking game. It doesn't run very well. Pretty much everything is in Finnish, because that's where it was made by a guy in Finland, and there are English translations, but it's not very good. But I have a strange addiction to it where it's just fun to play.
Cool, dude.
I haven't played it in a while, because the last time I played it, I finished my car, got it running, and then rolled it on the road. And rather than try and rescue it with a different vehicle, I just revved it and blew the motor up in it. So that was the last time I played it. So it's a strangely fun yet terrible game.
Cool.
Another game that comes up in my library that is widely hated, that I've wanted to give more of a chance, is No Man's Sky.
Oh, cool, dude. The good pick.
It was not good when it came out. It promised so much and delivered so poorly that it was just buried. They buried in negative reviews. Even right now, it's got like a all reviews score of 36%.
Oh my gosh.
Recently of 79. But that's because they've done a handful of updates and a couple big patches to do some quality of life improvements and base building and vehicles. So they've done some things to make it more of what they promised when they launched it. It's that game where you're like, man, I really want this to be good, and I keep going back to it and playing it a little bit here and there. So it's another one of those that it was poorly reviewed. It was very looked down on, that I'm waiting and enjoying a little bit from time to time.
Yeah, I really honestly think that's Sony's fault. I think they just touted it to be this next big thing, and they've done this a few times. Some other kind of indie games, like this is going to be incredible and amazing and great, and they're showing it at all the press conferences, and people are going crazy about it. But it's like, guys, this is, I know it's huge, and like it's a game that I'll never even experience like 1% of or whatever, but it should be like a $20 or $30 game, because if it was that, people would have been like, this game's incredible. But you put that at a full price point and things aren't working, things are promised that aren't in the game, people, especially game like enthusiasts, lose their minds. It's like that's what happened with No Man's Sky, and it's kind of sad, honestly. It's like sorry, dudes. Like,
it had so much potential, and it still does. It's improving on it constantly. So it's I want to give it more time, and I want to give it more hope. I'm hoping that they've recently, in the recent update, they had like a small multiplayer type aspect to it where you can visit your friend's base. You're basically just like this floating glowing orb, and there's voice over IP, so you can chat with each other. But that's all that the multiplayer is. It's just that, oh, I get to come to your base as like a floating orb and see your cool base. But it's a precursor into what they're hopefully working on to make it more of what they talked about, where it's like you can fly ships around together and that whole bit. So
yeah, definitely. My question for you though too, is there any game that everybody loves that you absolutely hate?
I mean, there's a big crowd behind Wildlands, and I didn't like Tom
It's
Clancy
fine.
Wildlands. It was fine.
Yeah.
I would not have bought it if it wasn't for my friends buying it and
Yep.
playing
Yep.
it.
Same
I
here.
I haven't beaten it. I don't really have a desire to go back to it right now.
Yeah.
Maybe when I go through some other games in my catalog, I'll go back to it, but it's fine. Witcher 3, I enjoy RPG games. And it might be that I just never really got into that franchise when it really in the first Witcher and Witcher 2, and that because I know the storyline is so deep in that game,
Yeah, it
and
is.
there's so much to do that for me, like if I start playing The Witcher 3, like I should go back and play the first ones, but I can't stand bad graphics, so it's
Yeah.
hard for me to do that.
Yeah, I'd
So
say two. I went with two. There was like a Games with Gold, and I played through that one, and that was
mhm,
enough. I didn't need to go back and play the first one. So
right, and it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I think for me, I'm too far past the lore and having to figure it out, and maybe eventually I'll sit back down with it. But every time I've opened it up like 4 or 5 times, I play it for an hour, and then it sits back in my library for a long time. So
yeah,
maybe that one would be a good candidate for games that are widely accepted that I'm not huge on.
sure. Sure. For me, I guess it has to do with the exact opposite. It's more of like combat in a certain franchise, but we probably talked about this before, John. But like the Souls series, more specifically Bloodborne.
I was
Um,
just looking at that. I'm like, is he gonna mention Dark Souls?
I'm gonna mention Dark Souls. So it's a game that everybody, or like a franchise that has become loved, for people who just love just being masochistic. But I did beat Bloodborne, and I just like I understand why people enjoy it. I know that feeling of finally overcoming that boss and just finally being like, yeah, I did it. That was me.
That
But like
feels good, man.
it feels great. But I don't like being in those worlds, I never feel good. I never get to enjoy those worlds. Unlike where you have another game that has not as tough combat, but like Horizon, like even at the end of that game, you still take a hit from something and you're gonna like half your life goes away. But that game's not as punishing, in the long haul. But I just get to breathe in that game, be in that world. Bloodborne and the Souls series constantly reminds you you're playing a video game. And you have a little counter that says like, "Oh, these are the souls that you've collected," and once you kill this big enemy, you can knock it around on the ground. It's like this floppity flabbity like thing. It's like, oh gosh, like you're ripping me right out of the
The
experience.
ragdoll physics, specifically in the first Dark Souls, was pretty hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I know Gears of War does that sometimes too. So I mean, it's not like they're the only ones that do this, but yeah, those games I just never feel like super comfortable in, and I never really enjoy it. And for me, games I like to have a challenge, but when they're stressful, it kind of goes against the point of me playing a game.
Right.
So for
And
me, I'm like, I don't like to do this.
that's the biggest knock on the Dark Souls series and Bloodborne is that they're so punishing that it makes it not fun.
Yeah.
And there are things that are really annoying about those games. Like Dark Souls 3 was a lot easier than the rest of them, so it helped a bit. It helped me get into the series, playing Dark Souls 3 first, playing through a little bit of Bloodborne and the first Dark Souls. Um, there's definitely things about those two where they're like, wow, this is really bad or really hard to kind of get through.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like punishing, and also just trying to like group up is so hard in those games. Maybe they made it easy in three, but it just was like such a rigmarole to try and just group up with a buddy. And it's not because I wanted like super help on like a boss. That was always nice, and I love those moments where like or just randos would come in and help. But I would love to play through those games with a friend because I'd be like, all those moments where I'm like I'm about to die, but he like jumps in and like saves me or something. Like, oh,
right.
cool.
I don't recall how the Bloodborne system works for multiplayer. I know for Dark Souls 3, it was really easy. Um, and especially like you could just have it set so that you can play with anybody or ask anyone to come help you or go help anyone, or you could have it set up where like this is the password me and my friends are using that I'll only be able to have them help me or me help them.
Cool.
So Dark Souls 3 is easy. I know right now the first Dark Souls and I think the second one, their servers are now offline for their multiplayer aspect, so you have to use a mod pack for PC to be able to play with each other.
Okay.
Uh, so there's that annoyance, and I every time a couple of my buddies want to play the first Dark Souls, it's always a pain to have to go update the file and get the mod running and then get it working. So
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And again, it's not that I completely hate these games. I see the merit in them. It's just for me, I'm not really excited. Like when they talk about like a Bloodborne 2 in the works, and there's a lot of other games that are trying to be like that. I mean, you can even not that like they've like capped the that experience of like a third person kind of lock on. Because I'm playing Ocarina of Time here, which is like one of the first things to do like a lock on targeting system where you move in like a 3D space. But, like even Assassin's Creed is moving towards that too. So there's something with that system that works well that people crave, and I understand that, but I just like it's just too punishing, and I don't enjoy it. So
right, yeah,
yeah,
and there's I mean you could say it's about anything really, but you either love the Dark Souls and Bloodborne stuff or you can't stand it.
yep.
So I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I would love to know everybody. That probably be our community feedback question for next week. Like, what games do you love that everyone hates, or what games do you dislike that everybody loves? Because I would be interested to hear what those are because it's shifted a lot in recent years. We've gotten, I think, as a whole, as a like as a community of people who love games, it seems like we've kind of gotten more towards like the more fantastical RPG, some of the hardcore stuff, and maybe a little bit like, or we crave that more so where like Call of Duty isn't enough anymore. We need Destiny, like we need like to have that kind of fantasy tilt to it and add like some more little RPG elements here and there. Like people are craving that more as opposed to just like, here's a game, pick up and play, do whatever you want, kind of thing, as far as just like it's easy to hop in. But yeah, I don't know. Something to think about. Anyway, if you ever have a question for the show, all you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast. You can tweet at me. I am Matt Go Critical, or you can tweet at my personal one, which is at JimmyGood013. And you know, I would say you could tweet at Joe, but he wasn't here this week. So, or you could tweet at him still and be like, "Hey, Joe, where were you?" He's at Lever_. 627. If you want to see us playing some games over on Twitch anytime, you can just check us out on twitch.tv/critical reviews. We're playing Ocarina of Time, probably play some Destiny 2 again here soon because got to get raid ready. Show off in front of John as he's like, these are good, but like it could be smoother frame rate,
Yeah, let me show you how it's done on PC.
Yeah, dude, if you could stream that I'd love to see you stream that game, man.
I wish my computer could handle it. I tried to play Hellblade a while back and then stream it for Kate so she could watch it on her computer, and I went from running at like 60 frames smoothly. Like my computer is a nice computer. It's a nice one. I've put good parts into it, but because of my monitors, I only get 60 frames. But when I've tried to stream stuff, I get less than 30, and my computer just can't handle it. So if I'm going to stream, I either need to really beef it up or get a dual PC set up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, hopefully one day you get that set up, and then I'll be like, John's streaming with us tonight. That'd be great.
I'll always play games with you while you're streaming.
Please do. We gotta find. Let's just get Divinity. Just play that forever.
I might maybe.
I want to thank a few people. I want to thank This Is Dale for our amazing intro, outro music, and as always, I want to thank Joran Evers for doing the art here on the channel. If you're ever interested in getting a commission done by him, all you have to do is tweet at him over on Twitter. Just tell him that Jimmy sent you, and he'll strike a good deal with you. But if you want to get some good art by him and support us at the same time, check out patreon.com/critical reviews to see how you can support us Legion today. We talked about Jonathan earlier being our $100 patron, a commander. If you want to hear your name and see your picture up on every podcast, and we'll talk about you, and we'll say a word or a phrase that you like from anything, then that's how you can do that. But if you want to just share this around, that's the next best thing you can do. But we thank everybody who's stopping by, for all these episodes. Anybody who's stopping by for the very first time, we really do appreciate it. And yeah, until next week. I'm not sure what we'll be talking about, but we'll see if we're talking more Destiny stuff or what Joe wants to talk about or what other news comes up, because there should be some more. But John, thank you so much for being on, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. You always let me know if you ever need anything, bud.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're such a pleasure to have on the show, and I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of people saying like, "Hey, that John guy seems like he's in the know. Who's Joe? Joe who? What?"
I hope they like me. I like when people like me.
I like you, so you got at least one. And thank you guys.
Feels good, man.
All right. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, everybody else. Until next week, and just remember to adapt and overcome. We'll see you next time.